And the scripture after Mary goes to visit Elizabeth, the verse 56 reads, it says, Mary, listen to this. Mary stayed with Elizabeth for about 3 months and then returned home. I know most of y'all ain't never paid any attention to that one verse of scripture. Mary stayed with Elizabeth for about 3 months. Now, some of us, let's tell the truth. We don't want our relatives staying no longer than 3 days. Do not look at anybody sitting in your proximity. You're talking about 3 days juxtaposed to 3 months. And in all the reading, went through the commentaries, went online. Really, no one ever deals with a lot of substance on why it is that Mary stays with Elizabeth. Some would suggest that she stays long enough right before she gives birth just so that she makes sure that Elizabeth is okay. There are other people that have tried to presuppose some things. The only thing that I could really reduce is that Mary stays with Elizabeth for 3 months so that they can look after one another and so that they could be an encouragement to one another. And saints, the first action item I want to leave with you today is that if we're going to be believers of any weight, we've got to learn how to look out for each other. And I'm not just talking about this superficial stuff. I'm talking about what it really means to honestly and earnestly look out for one another, because, saints, it starts first with considering that what comes out of our mouth matters. Oh, let me tell you something. God save us from this new Christianity where folks just talking about each other, talking about everybody's church, talking about the leadership. Let me tell you something. If somebody says something about somebody's church, they said something about yours. And let me tell you why. There's only one church, and it is the Lord's church all over the world. Be careful what you say about God's people. Be careful. Then some of us want to wonder why our children don't want to go to church and why the grandchildren. You be careful about what you say, because the truth be told, saints, if you can't say nothing nice, keep your mouth shut. Because the truth be told, if 35 folks join at one church, it is a victory for God's church all over the world. God save us from this spirit of competitive jealousy. Because the truth be told, we need to watch our mouths. Tell somebody, watch your mouth. Tell somebody else, watch your mouth. Find something positive to say. Find something edifying to say. In fact, look at somebody and tell them, you sure look good today. Tell them God's favor is all on you. Somebody say, I told a lie. Don't say that in church, amen. But let me tell you something. How many people can testify that sometimes your day was made better because somebody spoke an encouraging word to you? How many people have ever been on the verge of life? I'm talking about the verge of life. And it was God sent. That when God sent so-and-so to speak into your spirit, that was what made the difference between giving up and going on. Let me tell you something. What we say matters. But then also, as we consider this whole notion of looking out for each other, we need to consider how our own actions and choices impact other people. I was listening to Bishop Jakes coming to church this morning, and Bishop Jakes said that one destructive choice, one destructive move can destroy the whole house. Saints of God, be careful about the choices you make, because it just isn't about you. How many folks in Temple today can testify you've had to clean up somebody else's mess before? It's one thing to have to clean up your own mess. It's one thing to have to deal with your own stuff. It's one thing to have to deal with your own situation, but to have to clean up somebody else's mess. Consider how your actions and your choices impact each other. And then the last thing about this, look out, sometimes, somebody say sometimes fire may be necessary. What are you talking about? See, most of us, we want sweet, lovey-dovey talk. But every now and again, it's going to take some fire. But see, let me just be honest. Fire can't come from everybody. Am I talking right in the church? See, there's some folks who can say fiery things to me that other folk can't say. But see, you ought to have somebody in your life that you trust enough not to just give you what feels good about yourself. You ought to have a few folks who can tell you about yourself. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And every now and again, we need to get told about ourselves. We need a little fire, because sometimes it's the fire that's going to help push us to do better. You ever had somebody come tell you, now you're going to have to get out that mess, because truth be told, you're being really trifling right now. And you say, what? And because let me tell you, fire, let's tell the truth. Anybody ever had some fire? Fire doesn't feel good. Fire will cause you to pout. Fire will cause you to whine. Fire will cause you to moan. But if you're spiritual enough, what you will discover is that the fire is necessary. How many people in temple today have ever had some necessary fire? The fire that really motivated you to get from this place where you've been staying stuck and just whining and moaning, and you got moving. So fire ain't always meant to hurt you. Fire can be meant to help you to do better than what you've been doing. Dr. King, he had Ralph David Abernathy, and they sometimes would get into some fiery moments, but they said it was the fiery moments that helped them to push forward. Gail, she has Oprah, and sometimes they don't agree on stuff, but after the fire, they keep on with their friendship. And even for the young folks, I know Chris Brown wouldn't really make it into a sermon, but see, Chris Brown been in some troubles over the last years, and Chris Brown in a recent interview said that there are a few folks that had to tell me about myself, and they were Trey Songz and Tiger, and they said when they got through telling me about myself, I was convinced that I needed to do better. Is there anybody in who can testify? You got a few folks in your life who can tell you about yourself, who can get that fire in you. See, all you got to do is go look at the movie Lean on Me. I believe you get a good picture of what fiery friendship looks like. You remember the character played by Robert Guillaume, and then Mr. Clark played by Morgan Freeman. They were in the courtroom, and then Joe Clark was arguing with Robert Guillaume, and Robert Guillaume said, contrary to popular opinion, I'm the head. Y'all know what the rest is. And after they finished going back and forth, he said, come on, let's go get something to eat. Because the truth be told, if it's a real friendship, there can be fire, and then you can go and eat at the same time. If it's a true friendship, you can disagree, but everybody come out hugging later. How many folks know what I'm talking about? God save us from this superficial stuff where folks just want to hear everything that's good. It can't be what's good all the time, because you ain't good all the time. I'm not good all the time, but do you have somebody that you trust enough that will give you some fire that will push you on?